Good morning, Mashi.
Good evening, Dennis. How are you doing?
Good. Having a coffee despite it being just after 5 p.m. here. So,
Any, Anytime is a good time for coffee, in
Yeah,
my
if I have a
opinion.
coffee at 5, it's fine. If you have a beer at 8, it's a little rough.
Yeah. I guess that's true. I'm not saying I've never done it. Oh, all right. I'm going back to my favorite well here for
Okay.
quotes. And I wanted to set the table. I thought it was kind of funny, made me chuckle. A few things about this quote. I think it captures very well a lot of how I feel about life
hmm
and how I feel about expressing how I feel about life. And ironically, how people should interpret things like podcasts like this or advice in general. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Very
It's a
broad
good
reaching
long.
so far.
It is very broad reaching. It just tickles me so much. And I'd forgotten about this quote. And immediately when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, I loved it. I think I like went back and replayed it the first time I heard it.
Okay.
So yeah. Time travel is like visiting Paris. You can't just read the guidebook. You got to throw yourself in, eat the food, use the wrong verbs, get charged double, end up kissing complete strangers. Or is that just me? And I love the idea that there's no roadmap for whatever you're going to do. Experience is always the best teacher. And we study things and we read. It's Doctor Who, by the way. Obviously,
Mhm.
the time travel kind of like, tips the scale there.
Yeah, it has a weird Anthony Bourdain feel to it, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never really watched Parts Unknown.
It's really good. He has that whole thing about eat where locals eat, all that kind of stuff. Go like
Yeah.
he has an episode about Vegas, and Vegas has infinite Michelin star restaurants, award winning
Yeah.
chefs, celebrity chefs,
Don't do that.
and he is eating hot dogs in a gas station playing a video slot, and he's like, "It's great, best hot dog I've ever eaten in my entire life." Like,
No. I lived in Henderson during my exile, as you well know.
I love that.
And
It's something you're medievally excommunicated.
and I completely agree. There's great, very approachable food of all varieties
Right,
in
that wasn't cooked by
Henderson and
Gordon
Vegas.
Ramsay or Wolfgang
Right.
Puck.
Now, that being said, I would strongly recommend Amalfi by Bobby Flay in
Mm-hmm.
Caesar's Palace. So, but back to this, I think that it's not just this deviation from the guidebook. It's not just about like, hey, don't you should read the guidebooks. You should read the rules. Hopefully podcasts like this jar something in your mind and inspire
Mm-hmm.
you to think things differently or approach things in a different way. But it's not just about reading and preparing. You got to go out there. And you can't just go out there and go, okay, well, let's give it a go. You have to approach these things with a joie de vivre. You have to go after them. You have to really jump in and embrace the experiences out there, even when it's business and it's a real crummy experience. Even when you're going through hard times, which a lot of us in business are going through right now. It is not a good time in the market, but you still have to approach things with gusto. You have to embrace them fully. And like I said, you have to have that joie de vivre, tip double, use the wrong verb, kiss strangers. I
What
think that
this feels, it is kind of like a burned out, like expanded out carpe diem to me. But it also there's a little bit of a love for like nooks and crannies in it, right? That wisdom and memories can come from really unlikely places. And this idea that, it's not just reading the guidebook, it's not just going to even necessarily like someone like a life coach or reading some self-help book or going to a therapist. You can find something can stir something in you, something can jar something in you on a dumb podcast like this, or on a comedy podcast, or reading an ad on the bus, anything. And having an open mind and an open heart to try and be receptive to those kinds of things means you'll take a lot of bad things too. That's okay, but it means you'll find stuff you'd have completely missed otherwise.
that's definitely it. I mean, I don't want to. We go back a lot on, embracing failure, and this is a different thing where, the bad times are going to come if you have an open heart and you embrace things wholeheartedly. But there's also a way where, and this isn't true for everything. I don't want to overstate the fact though. Those bad things that happen, they become part of your story.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a good team, it becomes part of the team story and it becomes part of the experience and you learn from it and you grow from it. I'm not saying run towards bad times, but understand that the cost is far more heavy in anticipation than it is in memory. And the upside of running through there, deviating from the guidebook, jumping in, excuse me, and really, really experiencing, whether it's business or life or love or whatever it is worth so much more to you, to everyone.
Taking it a little bit more literally, I do think there is a danger to both sides. And like when we talk about actually like traveling, you and I both traveled a lot. You traveled more than I have. We both traveled a lot more than the average person. Mm-hmm. And I would say you certainly traveled a lot more than the average American by a pretty wide margin, I would say.
Sure.
Do you find if you're going to a place now, it's different when you would go to an event and you would go airport, convention center, airport, and it doesn't matter if that convention center was in Barcelona or if it was in Nagoya, It makes no difference. I don't mean those kind of trips. Do you find it's better to over prepare or under prepare if you had to pick one?
Oh, I think it's better to over prepare.
I think I agree because I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed, especially in a country where you don't speak the language. Something that was really jarring to me about going to Japan specifically was it was the only place I've ever been. I've been to plenty of places where I can't speak the language. I don't know any Spanish, I don't know any Italian, I don't really know any German. But it was Japan was the first place I've ever been where I can't even read the language. You know, if I go to France and I go, that says maison, I don't know what that means. I can't read any of the characters. I don't even know. I'm so far removed from that. I don't even know what there is to not understand. And stuff like that, big culture shocks can be very, very overwhelming. And it's very tempting in situations like that to turtle up. And a little bit of preparation goes a long way there. But then I think I've gone the other way too, where if you meticulously try to plan every moment of a trip or every moment of an experience or extrapolating out every moment of your life, I think that's punishing as well.
Yeah. So the reason I kind of cheated on my answer, the reason I said over prepare is then you have something to fall back on. Mm-hmm. But when I've over prepared for trips, I've looked at days and been like,
we're not doing any of these things. Yeah.
We're not going to, And that gives you a lot of freedom. Having the willingness to deviate is the only reason I vote for over prepare. If someone's gonna be rigid about it, no, I will go. I'm miserable. I can't travel that way. I have to be able to wake up and say, or go to bed and say, you know what? I'm turning the alarm off. That morning thing ain't gonna happen.
That museum I was gonna go to, it's not happening.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll pick one and say, as long as we make it to this, that's fine. Or okay, we have these reservations, that's fine. But nothing else is gonna happen.
Nikki and I had a similar thing where on our honeymoon, we went to a bunch of different cities in the States. We went to New York, to DC, to New Orleans, to Vegas, and we were going to go to San Francisco. And we had 3 days in each place. Well, kind of. We had 1 travel day, 2 travel days, and 2 days in each place. And one day was I got to pick the stuff we did. One day was she got to pick the stuff we did. And the rest of the time was loosey-goosey. What do we feel like doing? Is there anything similar? And then halfway through the trip, we were in Vegas. We were tired. We were traveling a lot of planes, a lot of trains, all that kind of stuff. We're like, God, we're really enjoying it here. We love our hotel. Do you just not want to go to San Francisco? Can you live with like not having gone to Alcatraz or whatever? Is that fine? And we were like, yes. Canceled our flight, rerouted, stayed next 2 days in Vegas. And there are times in my life where I live for chaos and live for unplanned things. And there's times in my life when I would really struggle to make a change like that. But it's difficult. It's very rewarding. And it's just like you said, it's very freeing to be able to go, you know what? I'm staying here. I'm not. And it can be scary. You can get a little scared of opportunity cost. But I think it's important to have the other side of that coin, like open things with, approach things with open arms and an open heart, but also know when you want to pivot and when you want to change and when you want to make a different decision.
Yeah, and I think that is part of embracing the experience. I'm glad you did that. But you know what you did miss in the city.
What I miss in the city?
The best Irish coffee.
I'm from Ireland. I highly doubt that.
No. I'm just telling you. One of the places in San Francisco has some of the best Irish coffee in the world. Supposedly, I grew up in the city and I haven't been there, so I don't know how much you really. I haven't been to Alcatraz either, by the way.
Oh, dude, I haven't been. I've attended an undergraduate degree and a master's degree in Trinity, and now I teach a master's program in Trinity College. So, and I've never been in to view the Book of Kells in the old library where they shot Star Wars. Never done. Well, they didn't shoot it there. It's all CGI. I had free entry as a student, then I had free entry as a student again. Now I have free entry as a staff member. If I get free entry for being over 65, I will have had an opportunity to visit this library in every which way possible without paying a penny, and I will have never done it.
Whereas I have paid and I have been to the library. You are missing out. It is gorgeous. It's pretty incredible. I very strongly urge you to just go strolling through. We're talking
I
about
guess
5 minutes of your time.
it's I literally have to go there like several times a year anyway.
I mean, it's gorgeous. You should do it.
So never gotten around
Mm.
to it.
But I love for this quote, like I said, it's really the joie de vivre element. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
about carpe diem. Carpe diem, first of all, um, it doesn't have good examples. It doesn't
What do
really
you
tell
mean?
you what it means. Like, paying double, kissing a stranger, using the wrong verb, making all those mistakes that you look back on fondly and wistfully and say, God, that was an amazing thing.
Did you know that the first several times I went to the US, I accidentally tipped double?
I did not know that.
I would pay with my credit card, and then you have the line because this whole thing where you give your credit card, and then they give you the bill back, and then you write the tip on it, and then they actually put in the transaction. They run the card, and they leave it. Right? That doesn't exist here. That is
Mhm.
not a thing.
Mhm.
Very occasionally, they'll bring you a card machine to the table. You put the pin in, and you can say, "Oh, can I round it up to $80 or whatever?" That happens, okay. But this whole charge after the fact doesn't exist. So I get a bill for $30 or whatever, right? And I put, I don't know, 35 or 38 or whatever on it. And then I would leave $5 or $8 in cash
Why?
because I thought I was noting how much I had left. So I was literally exactly tipping double for the first like 3 months I'd ever spent in the US. I was like, and then I was there with someone who was American. They were like, "What the hell are you doing?" I was like, "I'm writing how much I tipped." And they're like, "Oh, buddy, that is not how that works."
It is. This illustrates something too, where because you mentioned travel,
Mhm.
um, it's a perfect illustration of what we're talking about. Because the guidebook would tell you tip
Absolutely.
when you're in the U.S. Doesn't give you step by step. Doesn't tell
No,
you how you do it. Doesn't you
no.
know what I mean?
They'll tell
And
you
that's
tip
what you're like,
15, maybe
ooh,
20 if it was good. Won't tell you what to do.
no, 18 minimum. 20 is basically my standard now.
Yeah,
I never
15 is
tip
kind of
less than
outdated,
20.
huh?
15 is way outdated. For a while it was 18, and now I think it's just 20.
God. We have this weird
Yeah.
thing in Europe where we pay staff in restaurants.
No,
People still tip plenty often here.
Dennis, you don't understand. A Big Mac would cost $100 if we did that here.
I know it's crazy, right? Isn't that wild?
I always tell people, I've been to plenty of European countries where
I've never been $100 for a big,
costs
and you've
the
eaten
same.
plenty of McDonald's too.
I literally, I'm like, trust me, McFlurries are pretty static asset
Across the board.
Yeah. And they pay people a lot more in Europe than they pay here.
I use well, we've honed in a little bit on travel, but I think it's a good simulacrum for this, or a good allegory, because you're ending up somewhere oftentimes where you don't have any experience, and it's easy to try to stick to a rigid schedule. We're running short on time, so we can start to wrap up on this. I just took on Atlas Obscura, which is just a old, it's an old style forum where people post their own stuff and you vote up and down on things that you wouldn't find in a guidebook necessarily to go and see in a city.
Oh,
that's
nice.
a little cheating. It's not,
I love that.
but it's not wandering around at 6 a.m. smelling the city and seeing where the vibe takes you. It's still half a guidebook, but it's a little more community driven, which is very, very nice. I would highly recommend it. Is there anything you do if you land in a city where you've never been before that you want to try and do to kind of take it in a little bit?
Honestly, I try to get into the city, and then I'll try to walk to the closest McDonald's.
I knew it was going to be
get
this.
a McFlurry.
I've been with you several times. You're like, "Hey, can we get a McFlurry?" I'm like, "I guess." And you'd be like, "Ooh, they have Oreo here." I'm like, "You have Oreo McFlurry, so it's the same." Sometimes there's weird stuff. Granted, that's fine.
I think that, and I want to avoid places like malls. I want to try to find a standalone one.
You want to find less curated experiences, yeah.
Yeah, they do. They do a lot of. Starbucks has taken the place of a lot of this too. If you can't find a McDonald's, they do a ton of market research on traffic, on where locals go, on where people are, and take advantage of that. That's always been my thought. Go to where people are. In France, which I love just walking around and randomly going into any bistro, any bar, anywhere, because you can get an espresso. Every freaking place has an espresso. Sit there and have an espresso. But I do like to do research on where I want to eat. As you know, I travel on my stomach. But there's nothing I love more than wandering around a new city and popping in somewhere for a glass of wine, an espresso, or McFlurry. Like randomly picking, not, oh, this is the place we're looking for. It's like, oh, you know what?
Here we go, yeah.
This has the look of a spot. Let's go do it.
We can end on this because next time you come over here, if we go to Bray, where I grew up, the McDonald's there is in the old town hall, and you should Google it. It looks nothing like a McDonald's. I'll put a picture of it on the post. And they still hold town hall meetings upstairs once a week. It is